لا إله إلا الله. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين حمدا يوافي نعمه وكافي مزينه، وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. اللهم علمنا بما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما، إنك أنت عليم حكيم. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري. ربي اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري يا رحمن الرحيم يا رب العالمين. لا إله إلا أنت سبحانك إن كنا من الظالمين. إن كنا من الظالمين. إن كنا من الظالمين يا رحمن الرحيم يا رب العالمين. يا أرحم الراحمين يا رحمن الرحيم يا رب العالمين. أما بعد، الحمد لله, inshallah ta'ala, today inshallah we'll be diving into lesson number 22. We'll be diving into lesson number 22, which we changed the title a little bit from the book. The book mentions the best response, but we wanted to change it to responding well, which, I mean, it's just a slight change. But in any regard, in the previous two lessons, they were about the nobility and character that one can display and how to optimize that when one is around one's children, or when you're around when you're around your spouse or somebody that you're looking for in terms of marriage. And so there's no better situation in which one needs to respond well to situations or to trials or to difficulties that one could come up with than in the context of with one's children and with one's spouse or with one's close family. And so it's really appropriate that this chapter comes right after those, because we really need to have this quality. It's absolutely applicable to be able to, when we're confronted with difficulty, when we're confronted with issues, when we're confronted with problems that could present themselves from others, when other people might abuse us with their speech, or when others might be a little bit more difficult, they might be more aggressive, or they might not be able to interact with us in a way that's really desirable to ourselves. It's actually something where we don't sink into our lower selves. We don't sink into our desires and just respond in defense of our own ego. We don't just seek to defend our own ego in any kind of sense. Rather, we respond in a way that is within the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's with the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And there's some absolutely beautiful stories, inshallah ta'ala, that we're just going to narrate and that we're going to read and get through, inshallah ta'ala, that are narrated in this chapter. Absolutely beautiful stories that, inshallah ta'ala, that even if they're done by some of the higher ranks of the pious from amongst our ummah, there's still pieces of it and portions of it, inshallah azza wa jal, that we can hold on to, that we can grasp, inshallah ta'ala, where we can apply it into our own lives some way, somehow. Bidnillahi ta'ala. And really the idea behind responding well, or the whole idea behind responding well, and how to optimize how we respond in any kind of situation, no matter who we're around. It comes from the ayat in which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "The servants of the most compassionate are those who walk on the earth in humility, and if the ignorant address them, they say peace." Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions this in Surah Al-Furqan, that the individuals who are described as the true ibadullah, right? The true ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we know that being noted as the abd of Allah, that this is the highest station in which an individual could receive, right? Subhanalladhi asra bi abdihi, that glory be to him who traveled in the nighttime, who traveled in this journey in the nighttime with who? His slave. That this idea of slave, and even when Allah Azza wa Jalla was talking about the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this idea of being an abd of Allah, being a true slave of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that this is the highest station that an individual can ever hope to be described as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was described from Allah Azza wa Jalla in the Quran. And so that's a really high station. So to be in this high station of being in the actualization of being an abd of Allah, right? That there are those who walk on the earth in humility, and that's their quality. There are those on earth that go about and they're humble. They don't strut around. They don't carry their weight and just throw it around there. No, they walk humbly, right? They walk humbly. And there are those that say, when the ignorant address them, they say, Salam, peace. Meaning what? This is what exudes out from the other individual. A status of peace, a station of peace. It exudes from the individual. It's a natural state of them. So they just, when it says when ignorant address them, yani when people are rude to them, when people backbite them, or when they abuse them with their speech, when they curse at them, or they say inappropriate things in their direction, or just do inappropriate things that are supposed to rile up the individual who is a true abd of Allah does not get affected. Or even if you get affected somewhat, is that you don't respond. Even if there's some effect or something that, and it causes something of injury, that a true abd of Allah doesn't respond. Rather, they just respond with salam, peace. And the author states even that if the ignorant, those who are not bound by the limits of good etiquette and who have no respect or deference address them, they only say to them peace. In other words, they only respond in the best way. This removes the causes of rancor, hatred, and enmity, and prevents problems arising. Many people are easily provoked, but no one can take advantage of the true slaves of Allah to provoke discord or friction. Right? And so you can say that this is a measuring tool for us. We have all come across belligerent individuals in our lives. We've all come across people who went out of their way to debase us or degrade us in some kind of way. We've all come across individuals such as this, whether in our workspaces, whether in our own families, or what have you, or people are strangers or what have you that we don't know. We've all come across individuals like this, and each and every single one of us deals with people who try to put you down, haters, if you will, people that try to put you down. We've all dealt with this in one regard or another in every single day of our lives. But a true barometer, a true measuring stick of our ability to notice this true abd of Allah, to be at that highest station of being a true abd of Allah, and to know where we kind of fall, a great barometer of that is how we respond when people are most abusive towards us. How we respond to somebody, not just how we respond in terms of how we feign it. Now it's not about how we fake it, right? It's not about how we fake it when we put it back out there. No, it's not about how we fake it, but it's about what naturally emanates from us. Inshallah, what naturally emanates from us as a result of somebody trying to injure us, somebody trying to cause us difficulty. And there's plentiful examples of this in the Sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was, I think we covered this hadith actually already in an early chapter about withholding anger, but one of the Jews in Medina, they wanted to see the completion and the revelation of the signs of revelation on the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. These signs being that when he is confronted with difficulty, that he only increases in forbearance. That this being one of the signs and revelation that was included in the Torah. And so they went out of their way to create a scenario where the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam actually had owed him some money, and he went out of his way to actually become very abusive towards the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in the way that he demanded this money, in the way that he actually went out of his way to insult his family somewhat. And it was so much so that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu, when this Jew had approached them, that Sayyidina Umar radiallahu anhu sought the permission from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam in order to strike his neck, in order to, I need to kill him. And the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, no, Ya Umar, that we are not in need of that. That he is not in need of that. Rather, he is in need of you to remind me of my obligation, my debt. And then the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ proceeded to then order that this individual be returned their money immediately, and an increase on top of that, because of the words of Sayyidina Umar towards the individual. And it was this that led the individual to eventually convert to Islam. Right? So we see this within the example of Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in which that when he's confronted with difficulty, either when people are just belligerent towards him, that he responds well, that he doesn't allow it to affect him, that rather it increased him in his ability to really assess the need of what the individual is presenting with, to be able to not be able to be affected by it, and for him to be able to respond in kind in a way that met the needs of the individual. In one of the descriptions of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam that's collected in the Shamal al-Muhammadiyah and the Shamal of Imam Tirmidhi rahimahullah ta'ala, it's described in one of the hadith that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was never one in which he would never get angry for the sake of his own self. Right? He would never get sacred and angry of his own self, but it was only when the rights of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala were transgressed in which he would get angry. But this idea of being angry for your own self, needs to say that when things were injurious towards him, when people would act belligerent towards him, when people would behave or speak to him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, in such a way that any single one of us would naturally become angry and might, want to get back at him or something like that, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would never take it personal, you could say. Q-tip, right? Quit taking it personal. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the best practitioner of Q-tip, because it was never about the personal for him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It was all about Allah Azza wa Jalla and every single dealings that he had with anybody. And whatever was the most beautiful and optimal response that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam could have at any moment that would be reflective of a beautiful response that Allah Azza wa Jalla would want to see in him, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would respond in kind. Such was the example of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And there's another narration in which some of the Jews in Medina as well, right? Some of that ascribe to the Jewish tradition of Medina, they would sometimes try to say that call the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam outside of his name, and they would call him like Mudamdam instead of Muhammad, which would mean the foolish one, right? The foolish one amongst us. And they would also, there's actually two different things I'm thinking about. So one is Madamdam, and they would also try to say they would also try to address him with saying Assalamu alaikum, which means death be upon you, as opposed to Assalamu alaikum. The situation with Assalamu alaikum occurred with Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, and the other one where he was called outside of his name, called Madamdam, occurs with Sayyidah Fatima radiallahu anha. In any regard, when he was met with being called Madamdam, so the first one was Sayyidah Fatima radiallahu anha, he would just say, when he would hear this, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he would say, I feel bad for this guy who's this Madamdam, because my name is Muhammad, they're not talking about me. So my name is Muhammad. They're talking about Madamdam. My name is Muhammad, they're not talking about me. He, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, knew that they meant him. But yet, when he was approached by this, and it grieved Sayyidah Fatima radiallahu anha to hear her father called this, right? Naturally, right? This is her father. She would get emotionally upset with this. But he responded how? He just turned the other way. This doesn't bother me. They're talking about somebody Madamdam. This doesn't even bother me. They're not even talking about me. My name is Muhammad. Alayhi salatu wasalam. This is how the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam would respond. And in the other scenario in which Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, when those who ascribe to the Jewish tradition would say Assalamu alaikum as opposed to Assalamu alaikum, that the Prophet Muhammad, that when the Sayyidah Aisha radiallahu anha, she heard some of them say this to the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and then she proceeded to say, and the curse of Allah be upon you, and the death of Allah be upon you, and she proceeded to really get into them, which naturally this is the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We need to be defensive of him, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and it's also her husband, right? So naturally, because it's this is her prophet, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and this is her husband, she's going to be extremely defensive. And so when she hears individuals saying "death be upon you," it's gonna arouse a certain level of emotion. For But the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, in regards to responding well, Sayyid Habibullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he asked Aisha to stop. He ordered Aisha to stop. And when she asked him, Ya Rasulullah, did you not hear what they said to you? Because she thought maybe he didn't hear. And he sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, yes, I heard Aisha. Now, did you hear what I said? And she said, what did you say? And he said, wa alaykum. Right? And so, in terms of a play on sense, he said, and upon you. And so we get from that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ didn't return and didn't match their negative energy with an equally matching of negative energy. He didn't return it with cursing them. He didn't return it with making dua specifically against them. Although he ﷺ knew that saying wa alaykum and upon you, he ﷺ, as he said to Sayyida Aisha, he said that their dua will never be accepted from them, but my dua will be accepted. Meaning that he knows that they were saying death upon you. No, he responded with and upon you. But he did it very soft, in a very soft manner. But he ﷺ had the quiet confidence and knew that he doesn't need to respond back with that kind of negative energy. He ﷺ doesn't need to respond back in a way that berates another individual specifically, or in a way that could cause the displeasure of Allah. He ﷺ knew that he needed to be defended. He ﷺ knew that this is a transgression that these individuals were committing against him. So simply was wa alaykum. Simply and upon you. That's it. And so such is the individuals who are the true ibad of Allah, who truly can be considered, you could say, as being a true servant of Allah and not a servant of their own selves. Right? We're servants of ourselves when we just seek to satisfy our own ego. But we're considered the ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when whatever we're doing, however we're responding, however we're being, whoever we're becoming, is within light of the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We do it for the pleasure of Allah azza wa jal. These are the ibad Allah. Bismillah. And the author actually narrates a couple of beautiful examples and a couple of beautiful stories of Sayyidina Imam Zayn al-Abidin, Imam Zayn al-Abidin, rahimahullah ta'ala, Imam Zayn Ali Zayn al-Abidin, who was the son of Sayyidina al-Hussein alayhi salam. Sayyidina Ali Zayn al-Abidin, who was the son of Sayyidina Hussein radiallahu anhu. And so the author, Sayyidina Habib Umar, he narrates a couple of different stories related to Zayn Ali Abidin. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll read maybe just one, maybe we'll read both of them, inshallah ta'ala, this time, but they are longer stories, so bismillah. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll read through one of them, inshallah azza wa jal, just to kind of get a glimpse, right? Just to get a glimpse of how it is that individuals would respond when they were abused, and how then we can apply it for our own selves when we're abused by others, inshallah azza wa jal. Right? And so this is how Muslims' response should be, as what the author continues to say. That once some people hired a man to try and anger Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin in public, since he was known for his forbearance. As we spoke about the forbearance of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, it goes to show that one of his descendants also carried this. And Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin, for those that are not familiar, he's one of the more famous children of Imam Hussein rahimahullah ta'ala, when he was also the father of Imam Muhammad al-Baqir, who was also the father of Imam Ja'far al-Sadiq alayhi wassalam ajma'in. So anyways, so the man, he entered Ali Zayn al-Abidin's gathering and began to insult him and abuse him in front of his companions. Right? And so we can imagine this even for ourselves. Say we're in a meeting at work, how embarrassing it would be. Or maybe, we're outside playing, with our family. And somebody drives by, or somebody comes in, or a colleague comes in, and just starts mentioning some really nasty things about you in front of your colleagues, in front of your family, in front of your friends. How humiliated you might feel, how angry you could feel at the moment, how out of place and unnecessary it completely is. So his companions, just like how we would feel, his companions wanted to seize the man and silence him, but he forbade them from doing so. And the man continued to assault him. His face did not change in any way. Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin, his face did not change in any way. And the when man had finished, he turned to him and said, "You've mentioned some of the things which you know about me, and there are probably other vile attributes of mine about what you do not know. So may Allah forgive me." So and he's turning to himself, "May Allah forgive me for the things that are true, maybe that you have said. Maybe it's true, maybe not. Do you have any need that I can take care of?" This individual is out of place, so he doesn't know. He's asking him, "Do you have any need that I can take care of?" These are the ibadullah. Just as we found with the situation with the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, with the Jew who later converted to being Muslim, that he immediately went to the need of the individual, despite being abused by him, despite being insulted by him. Said, "No, the true need here is that I need to pay back this debt. He needs his debt back. The true need right here is, okay, what's the need? What is it that you need from me? I see you're insulting me. What's wrong? What's going on?" Going past the superficial nature of how the other individual is preventing and going to the heart of the matter. What is it that this individual needs from me? Clearly they need something from me. And that's why they're taking this time to insult me. And that jarred the man. It jarred him in such a way that he was described as he was too ashamed to respond. And so the Imam said to his servant, "Okay, do you have anything with you?" And the servant said, "Yes, 1,000 dirhams. He said, "All right, give it to this man." And so the servant came and poured the coins out in front of him. The man wept and said, "I bear witness that you are the son of the daughter of the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I swear to Allah, an evil group of people induced me to do this." The man, he wasn't actually trying to berate Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin radiallahu anh out of his own volition. He was actually enticed by a group of individuals to try to stir the Imam, to test him. Needless to say, he passed the test with flying colors. And then after how the narration continues is that the Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin then said, "Refrain from this and be quiet, and take this as a gift." The 1,000 dirhams that you already gave him. "Take this as a gift. I have nothing against you in my heart." With that, the man went on his way, said, "If the ignorant address them, they say peace," reflecting on the ayat that we previously read. And so we see in this that even though an individual who was just hired to fake the insulting for Imam Ali Zayn al-Abidin, even though he wasn't being sincere with it, that you still assess the need at the moment. What does this individual want from me? They're going out of the way to insult me. Perhaps maybe some of these Islamophobic supporters, they're going out of their way to insult me on the internet, and all these comments are being misplaced, and they're saying this about Islam, they're saying this about the Muslims. But what do they need from me right now? Is there a need that I can fulfill? It's going past how a person presents and addressing the humanity of that person. These are the true servants of Allah. One time, there's a story of Habib Umar Bin Hafiz, rahimahullah ta'ala, that Sheikh Yahya was narrating. And he described that one time, say the Habib, that he was arriving in a certain town, driving from being driven in a car, and that he was surrounded by this car by people who opposed him, who opposed his methodology. And they would be chanting Sufi, Sufi, in a way to degrade him. Sufi, Sufi, Sufi. And they were trying to degrade him. Yeah. And what Habib Umar, what he responded with, was just saying, Ameen, Ameen, Ameen. Asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept what they were saying from him. Right? What does this say, Yani? Meaning that, Yani, oh Allah, please make me a true Sufi being one who adheres to the Quran and Sunnah completely, who doesn't contravene the sacred law in any kind of sense whatsoever, and follows that spiritual path in the prophetic light of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Yani, that's a Sufi. Nothing else, nothing more. So that's how you would respond, Yani. When we're confronted with individuals who try to hurt us, try to harm us, and try to humiliate us, make us sad, anxious, confused, or what have you, how do we respond? We go to the humanity of the matter. What's the true essence of what's being discussed, or what's the true essence of what the need is at this time? Right then say to Habib Umar, yes, Ameen, Bismillah, Ameen, make me Sufi, yes. I don't need to respond to you. I don't need to be hurt by you. Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, what's really bothering this individual that he's coming to my gathering and is going out his way to? What's going on with him? What's the need? Walking in the street and this person is speaking ill of Islam. What do they need right now? Maybe they just need maybe they actually just need some positive news on Islam. Or perhaps maybe just a positive representation. Perhaps maybe they never had a positive representation of Islam ever presented in their lives before. Maybe I can be that. Maybe this is my moment to be that. Etc., etc. Going to the humanity of matter. Not taking it personal. Q-tip. Not taking it personal for ourselves. But trying to find what it is that somebody needs. What it is that somebody needs. And Yani, there's another story of Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin that's narrated here. I'll truncate it down just a little bit for the sake of time. We need to study Ali Zain al-Abidin more. We need to mention him more. Ali said, we need to do it more. If we want to find true individuals who were inculcations of the prophetic light of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam and truly lived that light and exuded that light in their personality and in their person and their being, Ali Zain al-Abidin is from amongst them, rahimahullah ta'ala. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve him, inshallah, ameen. Alhamdulillah. But in any regard, there was another situation in which he was praying inside of a masjid. Ali Zain al-Abidin was praying in a masjid after the time of Isha. And there was another individual that was like a traveler that was staying with a friend. He had lost a purse containing about like another 1,000 dirhams. Okay, so that's a good amount of money. And so he was informed that, okay, well, people were praying in the mosque, so the only way that I've searched around that somebody must have stolen it from the mosque, because I know I took it with me to the mosque when I went to pray, so that means somebody must have stolen it at the mosque, because it can't be, there's no way it can be at home. In the reality, the individual left it at home, right, with their friend, where they were staying. But they thought that somebody had stolen it while he was at the mosque praying. And so he went back to the mosque and he said, okay, well, you know what? The person probably would have tried not to be suspicious, so they're probably still there. And so the only individual that was still there was Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin. And so he deduced that, okay, this person, when he went back to the mosque and saw Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin still praying, he deduced that, okay, this must be the person that stole my money. And so Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, who was making a long qiyam, and then he went to bow and he was making a long ruku'. And so this individual shouted at him, don't just be fake, and don't just try to look like you're just praying a long time. Give back what you owe. Give back what you owe. So yeah, I mean, we hear people when we pray. Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin heard him in the middle of the salah, so yeah, and he hurried up his prayer. And then when he was done with his prayer, he asked him, what is it that you need? And then the man said, give back what you owe. You stole from me. And he said, what did I steal? What did I steal from you? So he's asking, what did I steal from you? And he apologized. He said, the 1,000 dirhams that was in his purse. And he said, okay, come. You know what? You got me. I'll give you 1,000 dirhams. And so he took him. Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin took him to his house. La ilaha illallah. And he asked his servant to get a purse and to put 1,000 dirhams in it. And then he gave it to this man. La ilaha illallah. Then this man went back to where he was staying. And he eventually found his original purse with 1,000 dirhams. So now he has two purses with 2,000 dirhams. So surprise, because, apparently this individual that he approached admitted to stealing. Why would they give me the 1,000 dirhams? So he went back to return the 1,000 dirhams. He said, why did you give this to me? He said, why did you give this to me? And Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin, he just cried. He broke down and cried in front of him. And actually, what had happened was that he asked somebody else along the way back. Sorry, I got a little bit mixed up. He went to somebody else on the way back. He said, okay, well, who was this person that was praying in this masjid? And he learned that it was Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin. He said, this is the son of the daughter of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the grandson of the daughter of the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he began to cry. And he went to return back the dirhams. That's actually what led to him returning back the 1,000 dirhams. Imam Ali Zain al-Abidin refused to take it back. He refused to take it back. Yeah, this is the gift for you. Bismillah. Yani, this individual, he was accused of stealing. And instead of just denying the situation, saying, no, I'm sorry, I didn't steal. No, put the heart of the individual, of the person he was dealing with, he put his heart at ease. He put his heart at ease. He put his heart at ease and just gave him the gift of the 1,000 dirhams. Because at the very least, he knows that the individual had his money stolen and will never get it back. Or that the individual just misplaced it and he'll just have an increased amount of khair by having 2,000 dirhams as opposed to 1,000. It's getting at the heart of the matter. Looking at how you could constantly benefit the other for the sake of Allah Azza wa Jal. Such is the state of the people who respond well. Such is the state of the true ibad of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There's other stories and other examples, but it suffice to say and suffice to finish with this, that whether we're walking in the streets, whether we're interacting with our colleagues, whether we're in the midst of going about daily life with our families, one who reaches the station of really truly following the Sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who truly is following within the footsteps of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, is one who constantly makes their concern of how to benefit the other, and not taking things personal for yourself, but how to benefit the other person, how to be of service to the other individual. Being a servant of the other individual, being a servant of those around you, it results in you being a true servant of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam said that those who are most beloved to God are those that are most beneficial to his servants. Be beneficial to the servants of God in every situation, in every circumstance. We make that our primary concern. Not our own selves, not the gratification of our own ego, not satisfying whatever deficiencies or whatever esteem issues that we have, or whatever injury or slight that we feel, or whatever humiliation that we feel. How do we be most beneficial to people? And keeping the other as a primary focus of how we interact. What does the other need? Not about what I need. It's not about what I need. That's the essence of responding well. It's not about what we need. It's not about what we need to feel gratified in how we respond. What does the other person need? What do those around me need? What do they need from me? Let me get to the heart of the matter. Let me take a step back and get out of myself and see how I can be of service. That's the essence of responding well. The author finishes with the dua. It says, may Allah give us the enabling grace to make us firm, make us correct our speech and rectify our actions. May the blessings of Allah be upon the Master Muhammad and upon his family and companions, and all praise be to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Lord of the worlds. We ask Allah Azza wa Jal that He molds us, that He molds us, that He molds our souls, that He molds our hearts with the light of the prophetic Sunnah of the Sayyidina Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That He gives us that enabling grace, that tawfiq and that ability to step outside of ourselves, to get out of our own way, to get out of our own selves, so that we may be able to truly discover outside of the prism of our own ego, but that we may be able truly to discover how it is that we can be of service to others, how it is that we need to respond to others to be able to get to the heart of the matter, how it is that we can truly assess what those around us need, no matter how difficult they are, no matter how injurious they are, no matter how humiliating they're trying to be, no matter how much they're trying to insult us, no matter if that is their specific intent to insult us and to cause us harm, that we respond in the most appropriate way, that is within the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that we don't transgress the rights of abusing the creation of God in our response to others, but rather we take a step back and we recognize that even though the other individual is transgressing against my rights, that I'm still not going to bring myself to transgress against theirs. I'm still not going to bring myself to curse at them. I'm still not going to bring myself to humiliate them. I'm still not going to bring myself to be sarcastic and make a sarcastic, nasty remark towards them. and I'll take a step back. I'll turn the other way. I'll turn the other cheek. I'm going to assess what does this situation need at the moment? Does it need me to make a dua? Does it need me to assess what the other individual needs and ask them what's wrong? Does it need me to walk away from the situation? But whatever this situation requires of me, I do it in such a way as that outside of myself. Not seeking a way to serve my own ego and just to repair the slight that I feel, but rather know what is the best way that I can be of service to this individual. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to have this insight in the moment and not just after the fact in hindsight 2020, but in the moment, inshallah azza wa jal, to have that emotional intelligence in the moment to be able to respond in kind. ربنا لا تؤاخذنا إن نسينا وأخطأنا ربنا ولا تحمل علينا إصرا كما حملته على الذين من قبلنا ربنا ولا تحملنا ما لا طاقة لنا به واعف عنا واغفر لنا وارحمنا أنت مولانا فانصرنا على القوم الكافرين آمين. اللهم إنك عفو كريم وتحب عفوا فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو كريم وتحب عفوا فاعف عنا اللهم إنك عفو كريم وتحب عفوا فاعف عنا يا كريم. اللهم ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا وكفر عنا سيئاتنا يا أرحم الراحمين يا رب العالمين. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Jazakumullah khairan, barakallahu feekum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give that enabling grace in order to be able to calm down in the moment and to be able to assess, inshallah azza wa jal, what it is that truly brings the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala whenever we're dealing with individuals, whenever we're dealing with other people, especially other people who cause us some kind of harm, or cause some kind of difficulty, who insult us or insult anyone to our families, that we respond in a way that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala pleases us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us that enabling grace and tawfiq. Barakallahu feekum. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala taqabbal minna siyamana wa qiyamana inshallah azza wa jal. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh.